Pain is temporary. Quitting lasts forever. A boo is a lot louder than a cheer. Anyone who imagines they can work alone winds up surrounded by nothing but rivals, without companions. The fact is, no one ascends alone. Knowledge is power, community is strength, and positive attitude is everything. Whatever your 100% looks like, give it. If you worried about falling off the bike, you'd never get on. If there was a God, I'd still have both nuts. My mother told me, if you're going to get anywhere, you're going to have to do it yourself, because no one is going to do it for you. What is stronger, fear or hope? You decide. Pain is temporary. It may last a minute, or an hour, or a day, or a year, but eventually it will subside and something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it lasts forever. Hard work, sacrifice and focus will never show up in tests. During our lives, we experience so many setbacks, and fight such a hand-to-hand battle with failure, head down in the rain, just trying to stay upright and to have a little hope. Giving up was never an option. Hope, that is the only antidote to fear. Make an obstacle an opportunity, make a negative a positive. I figure the faster I pedal, the faster I can retire. If children have the ability to ignore all odds and percentages, then maybe we can all learn from them. When you think about it, what other choice is there but to hope? We have two options, medically and emotionally: give up, or fight like hell. I wanted to live, but whether I would or not was mystery, and in the midst of confronting that fact, even at that moment, I was beginning to sense that to stare into the heart of such a fearful mystery wasn't a bad thing. To be afraid is a priceless education. Motivation can't take you very far if you don't have the legs. The riskiest thing you can do is get greedy. For most of my life I had operated under a simple schematic of winning and losing, but cancer was teaching me a tolerance for ambiguities. My house is burned, but I can see the sky. Your past forms you, whether you like it or not. Evan Handler is a man who's looked into the abyss and laughed. His book, It's Only Temporary, made me laugh along with him. He covers love, lust, showbiz, triumph, and despair, and he manages to be both funny and inspiring about all of it. It's an important book that I think can help to spread goodness around the world. Something we desperately need. There comes a time in every race when a competitor meets the real opponent, and understands that it's himself. We each cope differently with the specter of our deaths. Some people deny it, some pray, some numb themselves with tequila. I was tempted to do a little of each of those things. But I think we are supposed to try to face it straightforwardly, armed with nothing but courage. But you can't quit, either. Even if you have to walk to the finish line, What losing does is, it restores the perspective. Some things you can't win, though I don't like to admit it. I'm not used to losing much of anything, whether it's a race or a debate, but among the things that I nearly lost are my life, my neck, and my good name, and I've gained a realization. A life of unbroken success is not only impossible, it's probably not even good for you. You don't just fly up a hill. You struggle slowly and painfully up a hill, and maybe, if you work very hard, you get to the top ahead of everybody else. Athletes don't have much use for poking around in their childhoods, because introspection doesn't get you anywhere in a race. Pain is temporary. It may last a minute, or an hour, or a day, or a year, but eventually it will subside and something else will take its place. If I quit, however, it lasts forever. I challenged that assumption by returning to a full, productive life. I had behaved, Nichols said, as if death was an option. How do you fight an invisible opponent like suspicion? I had a decision to make. To me, it wasn't a hard one. If I could ride, I was going. Crashes were unavoidable in cycling, and so was bad luck, and if you worried about falling off the bike, you'd never get on. What will you do with your wild and precious self? I've learned how to take out my own stitches. All you need is a pair of fingernail clippers and a strong stomach. If people are saying you shouldn't attack, they aren't thinking what's best for you. In a pack sprint to the finish line, a solo rider without allies or associates is a tired and losing one. Make every obstacle an opportunity. And that's what we did. Make every negative into a positive, as my mother says. Nothing goes to waste, you put it all to use. The old wounds and long ago slights become the stuff of competitive energy. Your past forms you, whether you like it or not. Each encounter and experience has its own effect, and you're shaped the way the wind shapes a mesquite tree on a plain. There comes a time in every race when a competitor meets the real opponent, and understands that it's himself. If there is a defining characteristic of a man as opposed to a boy, maybe it's patience. We have two options, medically and emotionally: give up or fight like hell. I wrote an entire book about death, called It's Not About the Bike, about confronting the possibility of it, and narrowly escaping it. What I didn't and couldn't address at the time was the prospect of life. Once you figure out you're going to live, you have to decide how to, and that's not an uncomplicated matter. I decided that I was essentially a good person, although I could have been better, but at the same time I understood that the cancer didn't care. If there was indeed a God at the end of my days, I hoped he didn't say, "But you were never a Christian, so you're going the other way from heaven." If so, I was going to reply, "You know what? You're right. Fine.